So, Alicia, let's start with the second part first. She's scheduled a hearing for October 16th on Jack Smith and his team's request to put some narrow limits on Trump and his lawyer's speech. What I expect that she'll do, although the timing of this hearing has me scratching my head, what I expected that she would do was enter some form of limits on him, although perhaps not as broad as prosecutors have liked. As for the mention of his gun shop visit, the reason prosecutors were bringing that to Judge Chutkan's attention was to say Trump can't simply throw incendiary things out there on social media and then have his spokespeople clean them up afterwards and insist that he didn't actually mean what he said. They used the fact that Trump's spokesperson, Stephen Chung, had said Trump had purchased a gun only to retract that statement hours later and compared that to other things that he said, including, if they come for me, I'm coming for them, or some iteration thereof, to show that Trump is hiding behind his campaign as he puts more and more inflammatory rhetoric out into the public sphere, potentially poisoning this trial.
And when you talk about the New York fraud trial, Trump, of course, is on the witness list. What is that going to look like?
So the New York trial will open Monday. It is supposed to go through December. That, of course, was a trial schedule set before Judge Arthur Engoron granted summary judgment for the Attorney General on her largest claim, which is that Trump and his co-defendants persistently defrauded people in the financial markets, including their own lenders and insurance companies, by putting forth statements of Trump's financial condition that had ridiculously inflated values for his various assets. It's not clear that the trial will now last that long, but you are right to say that Trump is not only listed on his own witness list, he and his adult children also appear on the Attorney General's witness list. The fact that Trump has now promised that he will be in the courtroom on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday is also an interesting variable. Hard to exactly say you're unavailable when you're present in the courtroom, Alicia.
Lisa, you were on the air last night as the first Fulton County, Georgia defendant pleaded guilty. What does Scott Hall's deal with prosecutors? What does it mean for Trump?
Scott Hall's deal with prosecutors is really interesting because he touches so many of the facets of the overlapping schemes to overturn the 2020 election. I think his largest value, however, is in the fact that the charges against him are fully overlapping with the charges against former Trump attorney Sidney Powell. Scott Hall has a lot to say about the scheme to break into Coffee County, Georgia election equipment. What's particularly head-scratching about that is that the break-ins happened after January 6th, and in some cases, even after the transfer of power to Joe Biden. It suggests that what they were really trying to do is figure out how Dominion voting machines worked so that they could continue to contest the legitimacy of the election in other states, including Arizona, where audits were taking place. Of course, Scott Hall also had contact with other people, including Jeff Clark, with whom he is alleged in the indictment to have had a 63-minute phone call on January 2nd. That will also be of interest to prosecutors. And as part of his plea, he has vowed that he will fully cooperate with prosecutors, including testifying. It's bad news for Sidney Powell. It's bad news for Jeff Clark. And ultimately, it could also be bad news for Donald Trump.